After a weekend that saw 10 people stabbed at a mall and bombs placed at locations in New York and New Jersey, President Obama spoke today about the potential acts of terror, a response from an administration that has a history of being scarce or at least slow to use the word terrorism and hardly ever radical Islamic terrorism. Tonight, correspondent Kevin Corke reports from the White House on the administration's narrative.
It seemed an almost instinctive response.
At this point, we see no connection between that incident and what happened here.
President Obama quick to suggest that there was no apparent connection between the explosions in New York and New Jersey and the stabbings in Minnesota. While the investigation into any possible ties continues, the fact is all were acts of terror, and all were perpetrated by self-proclaimed Muslims. In his first remarks since the weekend's attacks, the president cautioned against drawing conclusions based on what he called limited information.
It does not help if false reports or incomplete information is out there. So try to, as much as possible, stick to what our investigators say, because they actually know what they're talking about.
However, what is clear is the White House's penchant to suggest that attacks involving self-described Muslim suspects are lone wolf in nature, not part of a broader problem. From the president's description of the underwear bomber,
an isolated extremist,
to the San Bernardino killers,
lone wolf actors,
to the Orlando massacre,
lone wolf attacks,
and Chattanooga shootings.
And this threat of lone wolves and small cells.
Experts believe the White House's unwillingness to tell the hard truth endangers Americans.
The president has never been willing to admit that we are facing a global ideological threat from radical Islam, and we saw this today when he wouldn't call the attacks in New Jersey and New York terrorism. I think that's why this threat has been growing throughout Mr. Obama's presidency.
And what ISIL wants to do is they want to project that they are an organization that is representing Islam in a fight and a war against the West and a war against the United States. That is a bankrupt, false narrative.
A narrative that nonetheless continues to resonate with terrorists who've shown no hesitance in injuring innocent Americans. Said the Trump campaign's Jason Miller, quote, "When the White House says we are in a narrative fight against ISIS just days after a series of apparent terror attacks on U.S. soil, we should all be very concerned." Miller also added in that statement that it's time for new leadership in the fight against radical Islamic terrorism, a description we've yet to hear from this White House. We also learned tonight, Brett, from New York officials that they have yet to be able to draw a direct connection between Rouhani and any terror cells in the New York area. Brett?
Kevin Corke live on the North Lawn. Kevin, thank you.